Hey, Quicksters. I can never do this well. Welcome to Quick Take. I'm Susie along with James, and I need to just stop doing the intro because I never do it well. I'll get better. I promise.
Hey,
I
Quicksters,
swear.
welcome to Quick Take. Thanks for joining
Quickster.
us today. I'm Susie Tomachuk.
Let's
Oh,
just quick. Yeah. All right. So I want to tell you a story.
okay.
Story time. Get your little book. Let's get by the semicircle. I was with a senior team a few weeks ago, and it really struck me about this whole idea of we were talking about delegation and
Mm,
feedback and high stakes situations. And so we were talking about internal influence. And so we were going to chart out kind of what the team's influence is around the organization by project, by team, like what they
oh,
needed to
cool.
do and kind of map it out. It was really interesting. And what really struck me is the senior executive, higher than a VP, higher than an SVP, jumps up and grabs the marker
Yeah, right,
to write on the whiteboard.
right.
And I had not worked with this team before, so I didn't know some of the dynamics, but I'm like, how interesting. And all the questions, everybody always looked at him.
Mm,
And it
hmm
was like, he's a great leader. He really allows his team to do what they need to do. But it really struck me that delegation is really something that is not just, I want you to do this task. I
Right,
want you to show up this way. It's being aware of where you want the team to develop.
right. I think that's exactly right. Delegation is a means to allow your team to fill, those voids, to grow into certain areas and to safely try different things. And yeah, so many people, so many leaders simply just don't allow that to happen because of what their energy is and what they bring to the table. Um, while they think that they are, growing their team, they're growing them up to a point because they're always
Hmm.
there. And I think, yeah, delegation is something that a lot of executives don't really crisply think about, other than just to say they're doing it. And I think there's right ways and wrong ways to do it.
Yeah. And I also think, and when you think about it and you're like, okay, I need to delegate more, I need to give more
Mm,
responsibility because it allows my team to build trust and build skills and give them exposure. So I'm going to look at my to-do list and I'm going to choose what's on my
right,
to-do
right.
list. So it's like, where do you go to find the things that I need to give to my team that you're not doing and be aware of? When I talked to that senior executive, he was like, "Oh, interesting. I'd
Never thought of it
never
that way.
thought about that."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, delegation, I think, that's clearly my first thought about delegation is around making sure you're thinking about what you're trying to accomplish with delegation,
That's fair.
right? If you're simply just trying to get stuff off your plate, that's delegation, sure. But ultimately, your function and your thought should be around growing your people, right? And ensuring that you as a leader and as a team are more effective. Delegation is part of that. And I think that if you look at it from that mindset, you're going to avoid some of the traps that often come with delegation.
Don't you think there's like also what do you optically need to take off what are you doing that may not be good view of you that you're continuing to do or that really pushes you beyond? Because sometimes we hold on to things that we feel bad giving away
Sure.
or we're
Oh
really
gosh, I've done that
comfortable.
so many times.
You
Like when,
have?
yeah, where it just it's and you hear it from people all the time. It's just easier if I do it,
Yes, for
right?
sure.
And it
Yeah.
is. Of course, it's easier if you do it, but it's easier if you do all the work, all of it, because it'll all get done your way. That just doesn't. That's not how the universe works. There's only so many hours, and you're only so capable. But the reality is a lot of times you see leaders get stinted by your point, which is that they keep doing stuff that they've done in the past, and it doesn't allow them to elevate, and it doesn't allow their folks to elevate with them.
Yeah. And I guess, and I don't even know what you're going to say, but I think it's delegation is hard.
It
And
is
it's
hard.
it's hard to think about what to delegate. It's
Hmm.
difficult to have the conversation sometimes. And
Sure.
in the heat of the moment when things are going really fast, to stick to it because sometimes
Yeah.
in the heat of the moment it's just easier or just automatic
Just to do it. I'll
to
just
do
take
it.
care of it. Right.
Mhm.
And I think that's just that's just the nature of the work that we're in, and you have to be thoughtful of what you're trying to accomplish. In many cases, delegation for delegation's sake typically fails. So again, it's about growing your leaders. And I think that you know I think the first thing I want to comment, and I think you brought it up really well, is the first key mistake people make when they're delegating is they're just dumping work, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of bristle about the idea of looking at my to-do list and giving these three things to my staff. That's just saying, look, I don't have time for this. I'm going to give you the garbage stuff. Just do this.
Yeah.
That's delegation in the sense that is doing having somebody else do your stuff, but that's not allowing them typically the opportunity to learn and grow, to fulfill your function perhaps, and
Mhm.
and share some of your limelight. That's just dumping the garbage work. So if you're like, I don't want to fill out this paperwork, I'll delegate that to somebody. Really, that's perhaps not providing you with the best possible growth opportunity by simply just dumping that work on other folks.
I guess it makes me think, what question could you ask yourself that could prompt you to kind of be able to disseminate or allow yourself to filter what is yours and what somebody else's, and not that you're dumping.
Well, I think what I like to think about is when I give, I delegate work. What is the outcome of this opportunity? A, obviously the work gets accomplished, but B, if by providing that they are learning or they're getting exposure or they're getting a safe place to fail, those are the types of things you want to evaluate. If your sole value out of delegation is just getting the work done, then it's probably not going to provide really the multiplier effect that you're looking for.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I think that's really, my second item is really just make sure when you do delegate, you provide the autonomy to do the work. I think it's a lot like you were describing with the executive that, I can hear in his head that what he wants to do is to get everybody in a room and we're going to kick this around as a team and we'll whiteboard the session. But then he grabs the marker, he grabs the attention, he drives the narrative. And that's not exactly what he really wanted to accomplish. So he failed to provide the autonomy to the team. So if you're going to delegate to somebody, you need to provide them the space, give them the independence, give them the opportunity to fail, so they can actually do the work. And guess
Mhm.
what? It's probably not going to be done exactly like you wanted it. And guess what? It's probably going to take a little longer. But that's because the end is not about executing the work; it's about all the other things that go with
Yeah. And maybe it's as simple as when you walk into the room, instead of taking action, you just sit in the silence and the
practicing
uncomfort.
silence. Yeah, that's delegating the leadership of the room. That's delegating
Yeah.
the setting the tone. I love to go into a meeting and just say I don't know why I'm here, or hey, who's going to take the lead on this one. I can always take the lead on the conversation. I can always say, well, I read the meeting title. I assume it means this, so let's talk about it this way. But that's not that's not leadership. That's management.
Yeah.
And those are two different things.
Yeah. It makes me think too, I guess, and this isn't delegation, but I think that the other is true. Like, I was thinking, in that silence, being ready to jump in and say, I'm going to take this initiative and do it,
Hmm.
and not assume. I was just working with a team yesterday, and they were having their boss called a meeting, and she wanted them to present to her, and we talked about framing up the conversation for her. And they were
Hmm.
like, "But it's her meeting. It's her
Right.
agenda." And it's like,
Right.
"No, she would like you frame it in the way that, you asked us to do this. You asked us to have some slides available.
Hmm.
And what we'd like to do is we're going to go through this. And then we want to hear what your state of the state
Right.
is."
Right.
And she was thrilled.
I love that. And I guess that's a really great segue to my third point about delegation. And while I don't think this actually, she did a good job there, but I do like what the team did. Look, key to successful delegation is setting the expectation,
Yeah.
right? And so now in this particular case, your leader said, "Hey," she delegated the way in which that they were briefed. She just abdicated that to that team to go forward. That wasn't but as much delegation as it could have been. But the reality is they did set the expectation, right? So rather than just showing up and waiting for her, they said, "Hey, I'll set the expectation," and makes that collaboration that much more productive. And I think it's so important when you bring people along, when you're going to give them the opportunity, that you're crisp in the delegation, crisp in the expectation. We talk all the time about going on vacation and saying, people, I'm going to delegate to my staff. But what does that mean? Does that mean that they can basically, they're empowered to tell everybody you're on vacation? Is that the
Yeah.
soul of the
Yeah.
delegation? Or can they sign, and can they make decisions,
Yeah.
and can they do things? And you need to set that expectation. And that, because that is empowering. You hear me say it all the time, good fences make good neighbors. And when those folks know where the lines are drawn, they're going to make that much better decisions. So
Yeah.
if you're going to delegate, you need to be clear what you're delegating and where you're not delegating, and making it crisp. You'll have a much better outcome.
Yeah. It's like just handing them your phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to be gone here
Here.
and
What does
just
that
turn
even
around.
right? Walk away.
No password. Your face is not their
Anything.
face.
Whatever. Yes. That's a great analogy. And you would never do that. So clearly, if you're going to delegate, you need to be clear on what you're accomplishing.
Yeah, I was just reading this article about how the 90% of our conversations happen in here.
Oh my gosh, absolutely
And
agree.
so it's funny to think about that. We know the way we want things done. We because we live it, we think about it. We think about it even when we don't we were actively understanding that we're thinking about it.
Right.
But yet we just are so not very careful or thoughtful about how we communicate that.
Yeah.
We think we give this piece, but we don't realize we're not giving them the context that lives up here.
Oh,
They don't live up here with you
right.
in
There's so
Crazyville.
much conversation, so much prep work, so much pressure testing, so much thought goes behind it, and then we give them the final bit. Exactly right. And so we owe it to folks that we delegate to give them the clarity of the full story, to give them the completeness of the thought. Oh,
Yeah.
I've been thinking about delegating this to you for a while now. Here, I delegated it to you. Well, there was a tremendous amount of pre-thought that went into that, and wouldn't it be better if they had that, or those expectations at least, so they would be successful?
Yeah.
I love that statistic, because it certainly supports the problem with a lot of the way that we think about delegation.
Yeah, I think it's a really important trait. I got to share a quick story. Back in the day when you and I worked together, there was a network and a distribution partner that were
Hmm.
not getting along, and they were at odds. And so we had to quickly switch from one satellite to the other. All these
Oh,
people
okay.
around the country is a big deal.
Yep.
And I think actually you may have been in the room. There was a senior staff meeting going on, and I ran into the room and I said, "Hey," and I said to the senior leader, "We got to do this, we got to move this from here because, and I literally used, it was Seinfeld days. I said, because it's like blah, 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 these affiliates here and blah, 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 these affiliates here."
Hmm.
And he got really mad at me. He goes, "I understand what blah, blah, blah means. And you understand what blah, blah, blah means, but everybody else in this room. So slow down and explain blah, blah, blah." And he
Right.
literally
Right.
said
Right.
that.
Right.
But it was just like, we do believe, especially in the heat, that was a heat of the moment time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we have emotions involved and we're not able to think and we just
Mm.
want to go,
Yeah. Yeah.
so take a breath
Yep.
and think
Do
about,
it
what am
right.
I trying
Do
to
it well.
communicate to this
Yeah.
person? And how do you make sure they understand?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And yeah, those heated moments, and oftentimes when you're delegating something, it's you may not have the time to have that conversation as crisply as you'd like, but it's, if you want them to be successful in it, you need to do that.
Yeah. So good. So what are the three again?
Yeah, so I think it's so important that first and foremost that you allow autonomy in their work. Give them the space, give them the ecosystem where they can be successful, and allow them to really understand what they need. Secondly, you want to be clear in the expectations of that delegation, right?
Yeah.
You want them to you want to say, look, I'm going to give you this opportunity. Here's the space. Here's what I'm expecting out of this, and allows them the opportunity to be successful because you clearly know what you're doing. And then the third one, which I think is just a general good rule of thumb, is just avoid dumping work. Right?
Yeah.
Delegation is simply not taking the garbage and giving it to the person next to you. If you truly want a positive experience for an up and coming leader, you want to afford them the opportunity to grow. Just simply dumping your half of your to-do list on them is not delegation. That's just not a good way to manage.
Bad management. I would go as far to
Bad,
say that's just
yep,
bad. Bad.
bad.
Well, this was great. Thank you, James. That was very thoughtful. And tell us what kind of feedback, what are some of the Quicksters saying to you? You ran
Oh,
into a few today.
yeah, I was super excited. The last couple of days, I've had some events here in Denver, and I just shout out to the handful of folks that ran up to me and said that they were Quicksters, which is always exciting. Had some great feedback on some of our episodes. Some folks that really put it to work, and we love hearing from you guys. It's just humbling that we have so many people out there listening to us, and it's just so much fun to engage with everybody and getting your feedback. So keep it coming. It's been great.
Yes, and we appreciate you. Every single one of the Quicksters, even the ones that aren't self labeled yet. They
That's
will
right.
be.
They
They
will
will
be.
be.
Yeah, coming around.
You'll come around. Well, feel free. James and I are both on LinkedIn. Feel free to follow us, connect with us, ask us your question. We love to hear what's on your mind or what can we kind of talk about that would be a benefit. So we appreciate you. If you think there's somebody that could benefit from this, that needs to delegate more, it's a catalyst to help
Yep,
them become better. So
that's right.
share it with everyone, anyone you know. So with that, we'll let you go and just know that we appreciate you.